All right, my friends, so I'm doing this video a little bit for you, a little bit for me, because to be honest with you, I'm a little confused as to what my next camera should be, could be, in relation to budget versus my actual needs for a camera. And I'm sure a lot of you are going through a lot of the same possible mindset where the want versus need plays a big role in our decision. How much money do I want to spend? How much money should I spend? What are the features in the camera that are super cool? What camera features do I actually need? What's the return on investment? Because for someone like myself that uses these cameras to make YouTube videos, and that's pretty much the biggest reason that I use them, that return on investment has to be a part of the equation. So I think you and I should kind of talk about this, and my hope is you guys can put comments down below so that we can kind of have a discussion. Maybe it'll help you make a decision as well as myself. All right, let's get started. So to start this, I shoot these videos here with two main cameras. Number one is this camera right here, and it is a Canon RP shooting in 1080p 24 with a EF 16 to 35mm f4 lens on it. Seems to do the job. This camera over here is a Canon M50, and it is shooting right now, and it kind of moves between a couple lenses, a Tamron 17 to 50 2.8 with a speed booster. So that speed booster is by Viltrox. So that really helps me kind of get a nicer depth of field in the background. But one of the biggest concerns with this camera is the focus. So it has good face detection, or at least decent, but I would love to have eye detection. And that's where I really love the RP, because it has eye detection which just locks in on focus, which is fantastic. Now, both of these cameras can record audio, of course, but I actually record audio into this RP through a microphone that's kind of sitting out of shot here, runs back in and out. So lens noise and all that, not a big issue, but I do like to shoot outside. So lens quality and lens sound, or how much noise it makes with the autofocus, as well as with the stability, can help with the decision making. So the three cameras that are in question right now. Number one, and this has been the camera that I have primarily been attracted to right now, which was the Canon R6. Number two, which is also high on my radar right now, is just the Canon R. And last but not least, the elephant in the room, the one that everybody is talking about, the one that there's no way I'm going to be dropping any money on it, because for my needs, it's just out of the park, but it could be something for you guys, is of course the Canon R5. So let's first talk about the Canon R5 and get that kind of out of the way. Kind of talk about the reason why, for me, it's not the camera, but these could be reasons for you that make it the camera that you want. Number one, we have to realize primarily I'm using these cameras for video. That's their primary reason. It's mostly for YouTube, and I do work with companies, but a lot of their videos, again, end up online. So some of those features from higher resolution, example 8K, not a big one, but let's talk about it. So Canon here on their website is talking about the new EOS R5. So the information on here should be accurate as much as possible. 8K. Now we all know the theory behind 8K should make this a beast, and it would be one of the very first mirrorless SLR style cameras that could do 8K. So we're looking at up to 30p internal recording, dual pixel autofocus in all 8K modes, and it does 8K RAW 30p internally. Wow, especially 8K RAW. Crazy. Now this is a huge feature for those that will be doing color grading. So if you're a person that likes to just shoot and upload, then it doesn't really matter. If you're a person that brings it in and wants the biggest amount of flexibility in your image for color grading, this is a huge one. And having that 8K is going to help with all kinds of features of your editor. Even things like being able to run a stabilizer on your footage. The more information it has, the more it can use to help with stabilizing. So this can be really big. 4K for all those vloggers. Now I think that's really funny because again, I find it funny that they talk about vloggers here. Not too many vloggers are going to be possibly using a camera that is of this price point. But capture stunning footage, 4K 120p, which is awesome. Again, 10-bit 422 C-Log internal recording. Now the big feature here is internal recording. Or record externally at 4K 60 and has Canon's renowned dual pixel autofocus and is available in all 4K modes, uncropped. And that's a big one because when we end up talking about the R, we'll come back to that cropping feature. So for all you photo shooters out there, some specs, up to 12 frames per second with the mechanical and up to 20 frames per second with the electronic. So plenty fast, especially with the thought that this camera should be pushing mid 40 megapixel. So that's going to be awesome. The last real big huge one, especially that would be for me, but again, for video and for photos, is going to be IBIS and optical. So we've always had the optical IS on a lot of our lenses from Canon, but this is going to be the first camera that has in-body image stabilization. This is going to be awesome, and with the two of those working together, we should get some fantastic stable shots. For those of you that are wildlife shooters, you now have animal tracking. So the R5 can detect body, face, or eyes of cats, dogs, and birds. Again, super awesome for you guys that are shooting it. For me, not a big deal. Dual card slots, because everybody was asking for it, and a whole bunch of other little doodads. So that's the R5. Now, I think the R5 really is the ultimate kind of all-purpose camera. So if you are a photographer and it ends up shooting 45, 48 megapixels, this is going to be a no-brainer. This is going to be a massive camera for you. If you are a professional videographer where you are doing corporate and commercial work, this is going to be huge. 8K, the fact that it can shoot 10-bit, and the fact that it can shoot in RAW. That's all kinds of amazing for those of you that want to do that level of color grading. But as I had done in a previous video, so we have to take all this good stuff that comes with this camera and actually realize that it's going to have to be balanced with all kinds of other stuff from us and our computers. Number one, our computer is going to have to be considerably faster to be able to work with 8K footage, especially if it comes in 8K RAW and or even 4K 10-bit. We are also going to have to be shooting with CFast cards. So these cards are going to be considerably more expensive. And for a lot of us that have been shooting over the years, we may have an abundance of SD cards, which none of them are going to be useful. So now we're going to have to invest in all those cards again. And last but not least, just storage. So the fact is, this footage is going to be large, without question. 8K footage, uncompressed RAW, or 10-bit, these files are not small. So that means we're going to have to invest in all kinds of external storage and fast external storage. We'll probably be looking at large capacity solid state drives. Expensive? They can be. So just make sure you tack that on to the price of the body, whatever that price is. So the next camera is going to be the R6. Now the R6 is the camera that I have been eyeing ever since the rumored announcement. If we look at the specs of the R6, 20 megapixels, number one. And I've gotten a lot of comments on one of my other videos that are like, that's too little. And I get it. If you're a professional photographer that is looking for all kinds of detail, especially photographers that are doing architecture or landscape or wildlife or any kind of stuff where you are printing for one really large, or you're someone that likes to have that ability to do a lot of cropping, then yeah, 20 megapixels can be a bit of an issue. But for me, not at all. 20 megapixels should be fine. I like that control that a mirrorless or SLR style camera gives me. That resolution is going to be perfect. Plus, usually with smaller resolution, I get a bit better low light. That low light for me would be way more important than having a 40 to 50 megapixel sensor. Not a big deal. I would have liked to have seen it a little bigger, but I'm okay with 20. It also has in-body stabilization. So this is going to be another camera from Canon with IBIS. So huge win, again, for someone like me that is possibly using this in a vlogging scenario or doing a lot of video work. That in-body image stabilization is gonna be huge. Speed of the shutter for those photo moments, again, we're at 12 frames and 20 frames, so the same as the R5. We now have 4K up to 60, losing the 4K 120 that came on the R5, not a big deal. We are getting full HD 120, so huge jump from, let's say, the Canon RP or the Canon R, because those kind of peak out at 1080 60. So now we're getting 4K 60 and 1080p 120. So nice update there. Again, we're going to be getting dual memory slots. It won't have the top-down screen of the R5, but I'm using an RP and I don't mind not having a screen up there at all. Not a big deal. Build quality, it says, not as good. Now, some of the updated specs is oversampled 5K, which means that the sensor will be a 5K sensor, gathering all that information and delivering in a 4K video file, which actually means that quality-wise should be higher than just capturing from 4K, which is great. Canon log, 10-bit zebras. Autofocus is going to be identical to the R5. Head detection and animal detection, again, very similar to the R5. It does say, oh, here we go, dual SD card, so it is the SD cards. Identical EVF, so the viewfinder is going to be no different from the R6 to the R5. Bluetooth 4.2 versus Bluetooth 5 on the R5. Uses the same batteries as the R5, so the LPE6NH batteries. And here's the big one, under 2,500. Now that could mean it's $24.99, could be 2,400. We don't know. And this is the one that catches me right here. Let's go to the R. So the last one on my list is the R. So first off, let's look at 2,500 US. So 2,500 US dollars in Canadian comes out to about $3,400. $3,400. Looking online, I can get a Canon R with the Canon 24-105 RF lens, f4, which is the lens that I actually want, for $3,200. So $200 less than the R6 rumored price, with basically in Canada a $1,200 lens. That's kind of got me thinking. And the big reason again is, for me, I'm kind of pondering. If we look at the specs, and if you look at the specs again for me, R6 versus R. 20 megapixel, the R 30.3. That's a big one for those that are looking at photos. 10 megapixels higher, that's good. Full frame, both are full frame. Continuous shots, we're looking at 12 basically mechanical on the R6 and 8 on the R. Big difference? Sure. Big for me? Not really. Dual pixel CMOS autofocus, basically the same kind of autofocus. My guess would be similar on both cameras. 8-bit Canon log HDMI output. 8-bit Canon log. Now, as far as I know, it will do 10-bit through things like the Ninja 5 external recorder. Please, if I'm wrong with that, leave a comment below. I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard that it could do 10-bit external that way. Now, the other thing, again, for me, that's that big issue or concern, because a lot of that is photo related, is the video. So the video on the R, 1080p 60 is the maximum, 24, 30, 60. We're seeing that basically in the R6, we're getting 24, 30, 60 in 4K. And we're also getting 1080p 120 for slow-mo. So that 120, not even a feature of the R. The most we can shoot is 60. The R, though, can shoot 4K with a 1.6 crop with dual pixel autofocus. Is that good enough? I don't know. I'm hoping somebody out here in YouTube world has a Canon R that has been using it in 4K with the dual pixel and can talk to me about it. As I stated before, I shoot the RP with a 16-35 on it. Now a 16-35, if I put that into 4K, I get about a 24. And that's okay. That's actually not a bad size on full frame. That's completely workable. And if it has dual pixel autofocus with eye detection, I'd be plenty happy. Then what I could do is actually put the 16-35 on the R and the 24-105 on the RP. I should be just happy. And it should do everything I need it to do. The quality that you're seeing right now, like I said, coming from a Canon RP with that 16-35. So I'm hoping you and I can have a great discussion down below in regards to the R the R6, and the R5. What are you gonna get and why? And what are you upgrading from? That's probably the biggest one. Because if you're coming from, you know, an old Canon T2i, then all these cameras are gonna be amazing. You might as well just go big because you keep your cameras forever. I'm coming from 2 cameras that were bought in the last year and a half. Should I spend more money on the camera body this time round in hopes that this camera will last me a lot longer? Or should I go and spend a little less money on the body and invest more on the lens so that I get the lens that I want? All right, guys, a lot of yapping in this one. A lot of yammering, a lot of talking. I hope it makes sense. I hope you guys can join the conversation, hopefully down below in the comments, and we can kind of figure some of this out. All right, my friends, I'm gonna leave you there. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.